Christmas promo is going on. Just click on this video, download Timu, and you can grab a £100 coupon bundle.
Mackenzie Morgan, you can remain seated for the moment. You're in court today to be sentenced for one offence, which is the possession of information likely to be of use to a person engaged in terrorism. You were born on the 8th of January of 2008, and so you turned 18 just a few days ago, and you have no previous convictions. I'm going to have to set out in some detail how you come to be here and how I've decided on your sentence. And I'm afraid that some of it might be quite difficult to follow, and I know that what you're most anxious to know is what your sentence is going to be. And so I hope it will help you if I tell you right now that I will be sentencing you to 14 months detention in a young offender institution. And at the end, I'll explain precisely what that means. Dr. Hales and Dr. Cunning are uncertain as to the risk that you now pose to others. You told them that you don't now have thoughts about hurting other people, but the youth offending team, using an assessment tool, have assessed the risk posed to others as high. You're also a danger to yourself because you self-harm and you have thoughts of suicide, and you're also at high risk of harm from other people because you have autism and you're vulnerable to being bullied or being groomed and radicalised. All the psychiatrists say that you have got complex needs, but you're not suffering from an acute, treatable mental illness. They also say that it will help you to have a clear end date for your sentence so that you know exactly when you'll be going home. A hospital order will have an uncertain end date, and so on balance, all the psychiatrists agree that a sentence of detention is actually preferable. In essence, what it means is you have to make sure that the police have got details about where you're living and so on, and you're subject to those for the next 10 years. I've almost come to an end, Mackenzie, so will you stand up, please, and I'll tell you what the sentence is formally. Thank you. If you hadn't pleaded guilty, the sentence would have been one of 21 months detention, but I give full credit for your guilty plea, and so the sentence is one of 14 months detention in a young offender institution, with a further period of 1 year for which you will be on licence. You'll be considered for release after serving 2/3 of the sentence, and if you're not released at that stage, then you'll be released at the end of the 14 months. But the time you've already spent in detention on remand will be deducted automatically from that sentence. And when you are released, you'll be on licence for whatever period of time remains of the 14 months, plus an extra 1 year. And while you're on licence, it's really important that you do whatever you're directed to do by the people who are supervising your licence. And again, if you don't, then you could be returned to prison. Do take a seat for a moment.
Nevertheless, this
Thank you, President Officer. The cost of living is hitting hard for people across Scotland, and John Swinney promised to help. So what did he do? Well, he's cutting income tax, but only for some, and by a maximum of £31.75 per year. That works out at 61p a week. That wouldn't even buy you a bag of peanuts. John Swinney's budget might even... That wouldn't even buy you a bag of peanuts. John Swinney's budget might even... a week. That wouldn't even buy you a bag of peanuts. John Swinney's budget might even...
It's your tax cuts.
Let's carry on with
Rachel
our business.
Hamilton's entirely right. It wouldn't even buy you a bag of peanuts.
On with
Rachel
our business.
Hamilton's entirely right. It wouldn't even buy you a bag of peanuts. John Swinney's budget might even have broken a world record because a Scottish Government tax advisor says, and I quote, that it may be the smallest tax cut in history. Does John Swinney really think his insulting tax cut will actually help Scotland's struggling households?
First Minister.
I'm pleased to see that the additions for the pantomime dame are being entered early. I'm pleased to see that the additions for the pantomime dame are being entered early by Rachel Hamilton. That the additions for the pantomime dame are being entered early by Rachel Hamilton in Parliament today, because that was frankly pantomime stuff from the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party has come forward with a proposition about tax cuts which would involve £1 billion worth of cuts in public expenditure, with not a scrap of detail about how that would be delivered. So that is a false proposition. However, my government has brought forward a range of measures which build on the existing cost of living support, such as free prescriptions, free eye tests, the free bus travel that's available in Scotland, with an expansion of support.
Can I just ensure that we can all hear one another? That would be helpful and, of course, necessary. First Minister. With
an expansion of support for breakfast clubs and additional investment in after-school activities, by the measures that have been taken through the Extra Time programme, by the increase in the Scottish Child Payment and the expansion of the Scottish Child Payment for babies under 1. And what that's a demonstration of is a government that is on the side of the people of Scotland, and I'm proud of the measures that we've set out in the budget on Tuesday.
Russell Findley.
John Swinney gave these taxpayers a miserly cut, not to help anyone, but to get a cheap and easy headline. And for many others, not to help anyone, but to get a cheap and easy headline. And for many others, income taxes will rise. John Swinney gave these taxpayers a miserly cut, not to help anyone, but to get a cheap and easy headline. And for many others, income taxes will rise even further.
Hard workers, teachers.
And one of the reasons for John Swinney's tax rate is so that he can spend even more on benefits. Now, we value the safety net for those in genuine need. But the
Let's hear Mr. Findley.
benefits bill is out of control, and it's now going to go up by another £650 million.
Wow.
I'll keep saying it, no matter how noisy they get. Scotland can't afford this.
Yes.
The Scottish Conservatives believe that taxes can't keep rising in order to fund higher spending on benefits. So why doesn't John Swinney understand that his reckless approach is unfair and unsustainable?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, nobody in Scotland takes seriously Russell Findley's claim that the Conservative Party values the safety net of social security, because every week they come to this Parliament and attack social security expenditure that's keeping children out of poverty. Now, as a matter of fact, the updated Scottish Fiscal Commission forecasts show a substantial reduction in the Scottish Government's benefits investment over and above the block grant adjustments received from the United Kingdom Government. That demonstrates that the action the Scottish Government is taking is sustainable and is, as demonstrated by the budget that we have put forward, as we have always undertaken since we formed the Government. We bring forward costed financial programmes that are delivered for the people of Scotland, that deliver real benefits for the people of Scotland, and the Conservatives are unable to match the record for financial stewardship of this Government and the support for the vulnerable in our country.
Russell Findley.
We value social security, but we will always tell the truth about the SNP's out-of-control, unaffordable benefits bill. John Swinney's economic approach is ruinous. There is another way. The only way, responsible, credible and sustainable way to raise more revenue for public services is by growing Scotland's economy. And you achieve this by supporting those who create jobs and generate wealth. Yet Scottish businesses face tax rises of almost £300 million in the coming weeks. And their verdict on John Swinney's budget is damning. CBI Scotland calling it a missed opportunity. UK Hospitality Scotland saying it missed the mark spectacularly on business support. And the Federation of Small Businesses saying that ministers must urgently reconsider their approach to economic growth. So when will John Swinney learn that he's got to back business, not attack business?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, I recognise the challenges that are always felt in the business community. I think of all the things I could be accused of. I've always been a member of the government who. I think of all the things I could be accused of. I've always been a member. Challenges that are always felt in the business community. I think of all the things I could be accused of. I've always been a member of the government who's had very close and active dialogue with the business community in Scotland. Now, the Scottish Government's budget for the forthcoming financial year will ensure the lowest basic property rate since 2018-19, and it will support business and communities with a package of reliefs worth an estimated £864 million in 26-27. That's before I get to the fact that one of key asks from the business community was about increased support for the college sector. And the government has increased the college's budget by £70 million in the budget. And another call from the business community is support for infrastructure investment. And we set out our plans on infrastructure. And yesterday, the Transport Secretary...
Let's hear one another.
And yesterday, the Transport Secretary told Parliament about the delivery of the plans to dual the A9, one of the central economic pledges of this government. And at a time when unemployment is lower in Scotland than the rest of the United Kingdom, where GDP economic pledges of this government, and at a time when unemployment is lower in Scotland than the rest of the United Kingdom, where GDP per capita has increased at a faster rate in Scotland than it has in the rest of the United Kingdom, this government delivers for the Scottish economy, and we're going to carry on doing so.
Russell Findley.
He says he recognises the challenges facing businesses, but then decides to make them worse. For the avoidance of any doubt, the Scottish Conservatives... He says he recognises the challenges facing businesses, but then decides to make them worse. For the avoidance of any doubt, the Scottish Conservatives will not back and cannot back a budget that does nothing to help Scotland's workers and businesses. And cannot back a budget that does nothing to help Scotland's workers and businesses. Delivered by a Finance Secretary who's running for the hills, it hammers people with higher taxes to fund a bloated benefit system. It's absolutely mind-blowing that Labour and the other so-called opposition parties will let this SNP burach of a budget pass. It's a desperate budget that kills aspiration. Parties will let this SNP burach of a budget pass. It's a desperate budget that kills aspiration. It's a damaging budget that harms business, and it's a dishonest budget that will need to be fixed within months. It's the same old John Swinney. Don't the people of Scotland deserve lower taxes, fairer benefits and a government focused on economic growth?
First Minister.